We start in Myanmar, where the representatives of Association of Southeast Asian Nations have stepped up efforts to end the violence in the country. They've submitted to Myanmar's military a list of nominations for the post of ASEAN's special envoy to the country. ASEAN Secretariat says its representatives held talks with Myanmar's military leaders late last week about sending the bloc's special envoy. The envoy will be tasked with mediating dialogue between the country's military and its pro-democracy camps. The names of the nominees for the position were proposed by the bloc's member countries, but they are not disclosed so far. Participants in the ASEAN leaders meeting in April agreed to the 5-point consensus for a peaceful solution to the situation in Myanmar. But Myanmar's military, which launched a coup in February, appears hesitant to agree to a swift implementation of the consensus. Casualties are mounting in Myanmar as the military continues its violent crackdown on civilian dissent. Local media outlets say that at least 17 residents were shot and killed by security forces in a southern village on Saturday. A spokesperson for Myanmar's supreme decision-making entity, the State Administrative Council, said the reports were inaccurate. It says the true number of people killed in the village was 3. The council was established by the military after February's coup. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson will call on leaders of the group of 7 countries to commit to an effort to vaccinate the entire world by the end of 2022. The UK will be hosting the first face-to-face G7 summit in 2 years from Friday to Sunday. The meeting will take place in Cornwall in the southwest of the country. Johnson plans to ask leaders to accelerate vaccination efforts by expanding manufacturing capacity. He will also call on them to share surplus shots with the global vaccine distribution framework known as COVAX and bilateral arrangements. Johnson said the world is looking to us to rise to the greatest challenge of the post-war era, defeating COVID and leading a global recovery driven by our shared values. Turning to an update on Japan's vaccination drive, it's the first weekend since the coronavirus state of emergency was extended again in parts of the country, including Tokyo. The central and local governments are stepping up efforts to get more people inoculated. In Yokohama, near Tokyo, large-scale vaccinations for the elderly have begun. The city has more senior citizens than any other municipality. A 3,600 square meter hall has been turned into a vaccination site until the end of July. About 92,000 people will receive doses there.
I haven't used the train for a year and a half. I was worried about coming here, but now I feel quite relieved to be vaccinated.
The government says just over 7.4 million people aged 65 or older had received their first shot as of Saturday. That's more than 21% of them. More than 2% had received their second jab. In the western town of Ine, Kyoto Prefecture, young people have also received shots. The town of about 2,000 people has secured more than enough doses to give second shots to the elderly and start vaccinating those aged 64 or younger.
It hurt a little, but I'm glad I got the vaccination, and I can now go to school without worrying.
Airport quarantine officials have priority for vaccinations along with healthcare workers, but only about 10% of eligible officials had been given 2 doses as of May 27th. A member of the Health Ministry's expert panel says officials and other airport workers who face a high risk of infection should be vaccinated promptly before the Tokyo Games. Health authorities across Japan confirmed more than 2,000 new cases on Sunday and 50 deaths. NHK has learned that at least 3,500 more volunteers have decided not to offer their services for the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games. The organizers said last week that about 10,000 volunteers had withdrawn from the Games. The 3,500 volunteers were recruited by prefectural governments to act as city guides during the Games. The officials say many withdrew because of concerns about the coronavirus. Some said they no longer had any reason to participate as there will be no overseas spectators. This woman declined to take part, saying if she gets infected through volunteer activities, it will cause trouble for her family and her workplace.
It's a pity, but it can't be helped if something happens after I get home.
This man has decided to take part, but says he is concerned about what people will think as opinions are divided on whether to hold the event.
I fear the volunteers could be criticized. Everyone must try hard to prevent infections, and the participants must put up with these efforts. But I hope everyone will support each other.
Organizers and municipalities that host competition venues are holding training sessions for volunteers ahead of the games, which kick off on July 23rd. Over the past century, many parts of Japan have seen massive change, and people are starting to lose a sense of connection with their past. One city in Okinawa Prefecture, southwestern Japan, has launched an initiative to rectify this. Thanks to modern technology, little-known aspects of the area's history are being kept alive for both the local people and for visitors.
Posters like these have recently been put up in locations around the city of Nanjo, Okinawa. Each of the QR codes is different. They link to vintage photos of the location, giving a short description of the place and its history. It's a service called Nanjo Archive Tourism. The audio tour is offered in 3 languages. The aim is to show what the area looked like in the past. Nanjo City spent 6 years preparing the material for this archive tourism service, gathering about 5,000 photos from residents and community centers. The focus of this initiative was to work with local people to shed light on little-known aspects of each area.
The aim is not just to give a one-sided official account, but to dig up local information together with the residents.
Sessions were held to allow people to see and comment on the photos that have been gathered.
今回一番古いかしら、戦前の写真。写っている。そうなんですね。ちょっと教えてください。どなたですか？右側。
Thanks to a tie-up with a private company, the photos and information can now be accessed using a smartphone.
例えばこの写真にもあるんですけども、大島
In this photo, you can see the young men from this area used to play basketball with the American soldiers. This photo shows the equipment made for the kindergarten playground. The local people worked together to make it more fun for the children. There's much about this community that we're still finding out about.
Now the new service has finally been launched. The local people have been helping city officials to put up the posters.
There are so many materials that local people have never seen. Now, anyone with a smartphone can access them. I think it's wonderful.
Just by scanning a QR code, the history of the area is revealed. It's a state-of-the-art way to keep alive the old memories.
The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have just announced the birth of a baby daughter who they have named Lilibet Lily Diana. She was born on Friday in California. Both mother and child are said to be healthy and well. Mexico's president has voted in elections seen as a referendum on his policies as the country battles the pandemic, a deep recession and a wave of drug-related violence. More than 35 candidates have been murdered during the campaign. German Chancellor Angela Merkel's party has won a resounding victory in a state election in eastern Germany. An exit poll puts her CDU party on 36% ahead of the far-right Alternative for Germany party on 22.5%. And a ceremony has been held in France to mark the official opening of the British Normandy Memorial 77 years after D-Day.